Hi everybody, good morning. It is Enchanted April, day 29. Whoa, and 30 days half April. So tomorrow is going to be our last one of these, but there will be other wonderful things happening so that we can get together. Good morning, Nivi. Bless you from up there in Massachusetts. So today we're going to be talking about something that is very, very timely, and yet the quotation came from a long time ago. So when I was working on my book, Creating a Charmed Life, back in the wilds of 1997, I wrote this. And as I think back to how technologically illiterate we all were in 1997, I'm not really sure why I wrote it. So I'm going to read it to you. It says, although we depend on the electronic accoutrements of modern life, our cells and our souls need something else. Indulge them, part of the time at least, in a charmed environment that is free of beeps, bleeps, and buzzes. So nowadays when I think of, oh my God, screen time is killing me, it's the screen time I think about. It's not really beeps, bleeps, and buzzes. So when I think back, what did I have in 1997? I had newly acquired a cell phone, but it was a stupid cell phone because we didn't have smart ones. And I had obviously a telephone, a computer. I don't think I even had email yet. And I know it would be another 3-4 years before I would have ever heard of a search engine, and certainly we didn't have social media, so it was basically a fax machine, an answering machine, a phone. But I still seem to think that was a lot of beeps, bleeps, and buzzes. And I do think that was the embryonic inkling that my soul was getting, that life changes, the world changes, you have to keep up, and you also have to protect yourself. So nowadays, if you were to Google problems with too much, at least what Google told me this morning, number one, it came up problems with too much sugar, then it was problems with too much salt, then it was problems with too much screen time. So it's a thing, and it's almost disrespectful, I guess, I'm thinking, to be talking about less screen time when we're meeting through screen time and we're having this wonderful, wonderful connection this way. But I think it's a little bit of a slippery slope and we have to do some balancing. So that's what I'd like to talk about this morning. But first, I want to tell you a little story to form an analogy. So we all heard yesterday, day before yesterday, the meat industry is saying that the food supply chain is in jeopardy, and those of us who haven't eaten meat in 5 or 20 or 50 years are like, it doesn't seem in jeopardy to me, but let's just say the whole food supply were in jeopardy. Nobody could get anything to eat except ice cream. Now, let's make it vegan ice cream, so there's no ethical problem with it. And if we're going to eat, we have to eat ice cream. So we do, 3 times a day. And we feed it to our kids. And we like it. I mean, who doesn't like ice cream? But after a while, we start to notice that we're getting a little bit irritable and a little hard to get along with. And our kids are being really hyper. But what can we do? We have to eat ice cream or not eat at all. And as time goes by, we start to realize, gosh, I think I'm getting a cavity, and ooh, I'm not getting any fiber. My elimination's not doing very well. And then if it goes on and on and on, we'll start seeing deficiency diseases like pellagra and beriberi that we thought only belonged in the history books. So my contention is that technology is like ice cream, because right now it is saving our lives. And in that story, the ice cream would save everybody's life before it started to kill them. So I think that's what we're met with today. We have the delicious ice cream of technology, and what are we going to do with it? So I've been doing a little bit of research, and some of this I already knew and some of it you already know, but it's kind of interesting to see what the scientists and researchers are saying. So some of the problems with spending too much time staring at a screen are computer vision syndrome. Dry-eyed, blurred vision, headaches. I know I've dealt with that. I've gotten a special screen to put over my screen and all kinds of things. But the fact is, I just need to leave the screen every 50 minutes. And we're going to talk about antidotes in a little bit. Head and neck issues from too much sitting. I actually have a neck issue from an old car accident, so I'm kind of lucky. I get the warning really quickly if I've been looking down for too long because it shows up in my neck. For other people, it takes longer, and you have to really be aware of your body to know what's happening. Then there's sleep disturbances, and that's because of the blue light that all these electronics produce that interferes with our production of melatonin that we know we need to fall asleep at night. And we've already been interfering with melatonin ever since Edison came up with the light bulb because we're supposed to be awake when it's light and getting ready to go to sleep as it gets dark. Well, we haven't done that in well over 100 years. And now we've made it even worse because of the blue light from the electronics. Then we've got, just like that ice cream, you know, some people would eat it 3 times a day and just kind of take it like medicine and that'd be fine. But other people would get addicted to it. All that sugar, all that fat, all that fabulous creaminess, they would be stockpiling ice cream and eating it round the clock and having no end of trouble. Well, social media and using devices. We know about addiction to video games, particularly in young men, but we all get addicted because every time somebody says like, we get a dopamine surge in the brain. I've heard that called getting a hit of brain candy. So then we've got general health, and that's simply because of the sedentary nature of most of what we do on a screen. So we know that not moving around enough can contribute to obesity and heart disease and certain cancers and type 2 diabetes. And there was one study, this scared me to death. It said that spending more than 4 hours a day in front of a computer or a TV, so that means I have to add my screens together, doubles your likelihood of being hospitalized for heart disease, and exercise won't reduce the risk. So at least in that study, if you're looking at a screen for more than 4 hours a day and you go out and run a couple of times, even that is not gonna do it for you. So that's pretty scary. I think about, wow, 4 hours. That's not very much, especially if it's the way that you make your living. Also, there was a really interesting article in Psychology Today that actually showed the pictures of the brain, the neuroimaging, and it said that excessive screen time damages the brain in a variety of ways. So the gray matter atrophies, and certainly any of us that are older and trying to prevent dementia do not want to lose one little bit of that. And the white matter that connects the networks between the brain and the body and back again is also affected. And when teenagers are really addicted to video games and that, they've showed a reduced cortical thickness and impaired cognitive functioning. My goodness, you don't want to have impaired cognitive functioning ever, but especially not when you're a teenager. So here we are, COVID-19, we're inside. We're doing practically everything online. So what can we do to get the benefits of the electronic ice cream and reduce the risks? Well, one thing is that we can cut out the screen time an hour or 2 before bed, and that's going to help with the sleep. If you absolutely can't, there are blue light blockers you can install on your devices. I actually have some blue light blocking glasses that are kind of amber tone. I usually forget to wear them, but you know, I have them. Then you can get up. So what I do is set my clock. What I've been doing is have my clock on the phone set for 50 after the hour so that I get up. And Kandira, who has birds, will relate to this, that I let my bird out now. Now that I know that the bird and the dog get along, I don't want the bird to be in a cage and have a boring life. But, you know, birds don't exactly know how to use a litter box. And so for me, there's a very practical reason to get up every 50 minutes and go around and clean the floor. So that works for me. And now I think I'm going to not do it with the clock anymore. I'm going to do it with a timer. So as soon as I sit down again, I'll set the timer for 50 minutes and see how that works. But just something to keep us from having these long, long stretches of sitting. And you notice that every morning when I do these calls with you, except that morning that I was sitting with Forbes, I do standing. And I try to do Zoom classes and all that kind of stuff standing. Because there was at least one study that showed that people who had seated occupations, even if they exercised for an hour or more a day, were more likely to develop heart failure in later life than people who worked at factories and were standing all day, even if they didn't do other exercise. Then how about bringing back voice-to-voice phone calls? I do have the beeper shut off for text messages, and I know it annoys some people that I'm not just Johnny on the spot with text messages, but the beeps bother me, so my ringer is on, my text message beeper is not. That's just how I do it. But it's really wonderful to talk to somebody and actually hear them. We've also gotten into this habit now of where we have to schedule phone calls. You know what? You could just call somebody. If they don't want to pick up, they don't have to. Or they can pick up and say, I'm busy now, can we talk later? Because I feel like my whole life is scheduled. Everything is a calendar with, you know, you do this at 11:30, you do this at 1:45, you do this at 3 o'clock, you do that at 4:30. Wouldn't it be nice if somebody could just call and it wouldn't be something else scheduled on the calendar? Maybe that's just me. Then how about audio-only internet? We do have these wonderful devices. And in addition to staring at them and typing on them and waiting for somebody to like us, we can listen to music, we can listen to books, we can listen to podcasts, and we can also do that on a treadmill or walking the dog or something of that nature. And then finally, connective social media. This is where it shines. This is where the ice cream becomes surprisingly nutritious. And that is when we can use social media to really be social, to connect like we're connecting now. I have fallen in love with Zoom. I never thought I could fall in love with very much that has to do with technology, but I've been really impressed by how intimate you can be in a setting like that. And right now, since we're not all gathering together in people's homes and lovely cafes, the Zoom and the Facebook Live are really working for me. So the other night, I was watching the very last episode of a sweet, sweet TV show that I've been very fond of for the 2 or 3 seasons that it's been on. It's not going to return, but the show is called, and I'm sure you can find it on demand or somewhere, it's God Friended Me. It's on CBS, or it was, and it's a sweet, sweet show about a young man whose father is an Episcopalian priest, and the young man is a very committed atheist with a podcast called The Millennial Prophet, and lo and behold, he gets a friend request from a Facebook person called God, and the God account starts sending him all these people to help. So it's just a wonderful, wonderful, multi-generational, multi-ethnic, sweet, sweet show. If you didn't watch it, maybe you would like to. But there's a lot of technology in it. This young man's best friend is a coder, so I learned some stuff. But in the last episode, the main character says this: we see technology as a modern-day miracle, but it can only be that when we use it to reconnect with the people we needed to find to become the people we needed to be. So That's what I'm thinking on this 29th day of April in the bizarre year of 2020. And I do have a couple of announcements. So today is Wednesday, and that means that I am doing my live radio show on Unity Online Radio at 3 o'clock New York time, Eastern time. And my guests today are going to be a couple of really extraordinary people. I'm bringing back for the second time Dr. Scott Stoll. And if you heard him before, oh my goodness, he said the coolest thing. He said, the only things you can truly own are your choices. Isn't that cool? And he knows all about plant-based. He's the Plantrition Project. He was in the Game Changers. He's an Olympian. So very, very cool guy. Will be talking to us about where do we go after COVID-19? What can we learn? What do we do? And then my other guest is a lovely gentleman named Richard, and I'm looking up his last name, Hardy, Rich Hardy, who will be connecting with us from the UK. And he is a recently retired undercover investigator, and he's the winner of the Animal Hero Award from the Daily Mirror paper. So we're going to hear all kinds of great stories about undercover investigation. We talked a lot about courage during our Enchanted April time together, and boy, somebody who can go in there and do those investigations is courage personified. So I am really looking forward to that. Something else coming up on Zoom on Sunday, this coming Sunday, May 3rd. There's going to be the next in the series of interviews with people featured in the film A Prayer for Compassion. If you haven't seen A Prayer for Compassion, it is now streaming on Amazon Prime. It's a beautiful film introducing vegan values to people who identify as religious or spiritual. So 4 o'clock, May 3rd, I'll put all this on Facebook. We'll be doing a conversation on veganism and Eastern thought, Indian thought, and we will have Dr. Silas Rao of climatehealers.org and Gopal Patel, who is part of the Interfaith United Nations Coalition, and that should be lovely. In fact, today should be lovely. So let's go out there and make it that. Thank you so much for being part of this morning, and to everybody who's listening later, I appreciate you a lot. See you tomorrow.